Fox News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
Welcome into Weather Extra. Beautiful day out there, enjoying a start with temperatures in the 60s. Afternoon highs today back into the 80s. But when you look at the thermometer, finally it feels like what the temperature's actually showing there. Let's take you live to our Sky Vision network across the state of Alabama. Coleman 79, Birmingham 83 with sunshine, 85 in Tuscaloosa, a 30-degree difference in feels like temperature compared to Monday, 84 right now in Anniston. I guess you can call it fake fall, trick me fall, however you want to describe it. It won't last long because the heat will come back. That's one of the next big things as we look ahead this weekend. Highs will be reaching well into the 90s again, and the heat index 100 to 105. Also, we're going to be watching the Gulf of Mexico. What is happening in the Gulf? Well, so far in the tropics, we've had a lot of dust that's been moving across the Atlantic basin from Africa, and that's had an impact on tropical development, plus the southern Pacific oscillation. The equatorial water temperatures across the Pacific's had an impact on the circulation patterns across the globe. So that's had an impact on just how much tropical activity that we've seen so far this season. We've been talking about, you've heard the term El Nino, which has had an impact on the hurricane season, but we're getting closer to the peak of hurricane season. We have several systems out there that we're monitoring, including a couple disturbances over the eastern Atlantic, but this is one that we will need to watch moving into the western Gulf by early next week. We could see this become better organized. All right, big question. You're headed down the coast this weekend, going at Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Panama City, Destin. This might bring more rain showers and scattered storms this late weekend and into early next week for coastal areas. But as far as direct impacts, I'm not seeing a hurricane or anything like that. So I wouldn't cancel any plans you have. Just monitor the forecast. Check in with us for updates. At this point, it looks like a disturbance is going to be moving to the west. A lot of rain with that. And we don't even know yet if it's going to become a tropical storm. So there's a lot of question marks on that, but a system to watch. But there's a greater chance that we could see a tropical depression form out in the Atlantic. So that we'll be watching. No immediate concern there, but a couple systems way out over the eastern Atlantic that will need to be closely monitored as well. Very dry though at the moment, and again, nice conditions out there. We've had some areas to the north like Haleyville, Coleman, where we've stayed in the 70s out there. So temperature-wise, certainly an incredible turnaround in this forecast. And you can see tonight we've got some great weather to enjoy. If you might be watching us right now with the window down and streaming us on the WBRC First Alert weather app, it's going to be a very pleasant night. Again, lows in the 60s. Maybe a few upper 50s in some areas tomorrow morning. But we'll get into more specifics on just how hot it's going to get over the next 7 days. And we'll talk when we might see a little bit of rain back in the forecast. That's coming up right here on Weather Extra. Plus, talk about the water shortages that are impacting areas. Mysterious ice in home. What's that story? You'll want to stay tuned. We'll show you after the break.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome into Good Day, Alabama.
A new morning comes with preparing right, because while you slept, news broke.
We have new information from that breaking news that happened this morning.
While you head out, the storm we gave you the first alert for is on its way in. And as the key turns the ignition, your shorter route to work is being found.
Avoid 459 southbound completely because of a crash.
A new morning means everything you need for a good day is on Good Day Alabama, always on your side.
The First Alert traffic you need to get you there safe and on time. Tomorrow morning, everything you need for a good day is on Good Day Alabama.
You're late, out the door, and on the go. Don't worry.
Good Day, Alabama continues all morning long.
And wherever you watch, this is what you need to know right now.
More reporters on the streets with more hours of news when you need it. Everything you need for a good day is on Good Day Alabama. knowing first is everything. First Alert Weather.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. I know we've got Labor Day just around the corner here in a couple of weeks. And of course, as Wes was saying, we got to keep an eye on the tropics, but you may still be trying to squeeze in some little last minute beach vacations before we officially flip the switch to fall. We check in now with meteorologist Matt Daniel and Mickey Ferguson for the beach forecast.
So Mickey, this is the first full week of school for a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure after that first full week, you're kind of tired and thinking, you know what, I need another vacation.
Yeah, well, if you want to head to the beach, we've got your forecast of what's going on. The average water temperature is around 85 degrees for this time of the year. And let's check it out and see what we're at. We're pretty close to that, aren't we?
We're above it, actually.
Yeah, a smidge.
Yeah, the Gulf is seeing some record heat as a whole, and so it's very warm. In fact, I looked up the water temperature. It is 89. That's hot.
That's crazy.
That's some hot stuff. And we're looking at that rip current threat going into the weekend. It's in that low to moderate stage. If you're going to Orange Beach, you're always going to see those yellow flags. And I will note they're also reporting jellyfish. So if you see a purple flag, that means marine life. Just use caution if you're out in the waters. But yeah, that's some warm stuff. 89 degrees, almost 90 degrees.
You can wear your purple bathing suit to color coordinate.
There you go. Here's your beach forecast.
All right. Yeah, we're looking at sunshine for Thursday into Friday. Temperature readings in the low 90s. So it's feeling pretty good out there. Lots of sunshine. And your UV index still pretty high.
That's right. It's in that very high to extreme range. It's like flirting near 11 for tomorrow and Friday. Drops to about a 9 on Saturday. You know the deal. Just grab the hat. Make sure you apply the sunscreen. We're still in that time of the year where that UV index is going to remain pretty high for the next couple of months. But if you have to worry about rain, I think going into the weekend, we're looking okay. Of course, we are monitoring a little disturbance that could develop in the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, it looks like it's going to stay to the south, but it's just something we'll have to watch. That could also perhaps increase a rip current threat early next week. So you'll want to make sure you tune in here, First Alert Weather Extra, download the app, and we'll have those updates. But the 7-day forecast for the weekend, not too bad, although notice some rain chances increasing a bit early next week, Mickey.
Yeah, that's with those concerns for whatever happens, that tropical wave into the Gulf of Mexico. So enjoy the next few days and just be weather aware. Consult your First Alert Weather app beyond that. And we're looking pretty good. While you're there, take a snapshot of the beach, maybe your color coordinated swimsuit that goes with the flags, you know. It's just something I threw out there.
It's so random.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But yeah, if you got some cool pictures, sunrises, sunsets, or if you notice the rip current threat or the wave starting to pick up from that tropical disturbance, I'd love to see those photos.
Right. I think we're done.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Matt and Mickey. Well, far away from the Atlantic Basin, a new study has shown that Jakarta, Indonesia, is the world's most polluted city. Experts tie it to the area's factories, coal-powered power plants, and traffic congestion. They also say in recent weeks the dry season has played a part in the city's rank. The area's health minister stated they will be stepping up tests for the general population to see if there has been an increase in lung and respiratory diseases in the highly polluted areas. Tania?
Well, Lauren, we've been talking about the beach, so if you're headed down to the beach anytime soon, be mindful of ocean water in the Gulf of Mexico. It is actually the hottest on record. The report comes as coastal areas join much of the rest of the nation in this summer's blistering heat wave. This brings a cause of concern due to the approaching peak of hurricane season. Warmer water provides more energy and can intensify hurricanes and tropical storms. The above average heat stretches across the whole Gulf Coast, with both Houston and New Orleans recording their hottest periods on record within the last week. And on that note, the world is facing an unprecedented water crisis, one that is only poised to get worse. The World Resources Institute found that a quarter of the population faces extremely high water stress each year. This means 25 countries are using almost all of the water they have. If any of these places experience even a short-term drought, they could risk of running out of water. According to the report, an additional 1 billion people could face water stress by 2050. The Institute suggested several solutions to save water. Those include preserving and restoring wetlands, farms adopting more efficient watering techniques, and focusing on wind and solar power for energy sources. Lauren?
Thanks, Tania. Well, though we've had a little bit of a welcome cool down here in central Alabama, that is far from the case in the Pacific Northwest. And a steamy haze has developed through the Portland metro area. The Oregon Department of Environmental Quality issued an air quality alert because of elevated levels of smog. Fox's Connor McCarthy has more on how some people are dealing with these poor conditions.
Triple-digit temperatures continue to bake much of the Pacific Northwest, and now poor air quality is making the skies in our area hazy.
If you want to try to go on a bike ride, you need to do it early in the morning before it heats up, or late at night, when the sun's going down. So you kind of definitely have to plan your days around not being outside and exposed to it, as much as possible.
Blake Hall lives in Northeast Portland. He and his friends were planning on having a rooftop barbecue today after work, but postponed it because of the air quality.
It's unpleasant to be outside and all of this, and I mean, part of having a barbecue on a rooftop is to see the view, and when the view is just a bunch of smog, it's not super pleasant to be out in that, and also for people's safety to keep them out of hazardous air conditions.
The Oregon Department of Environmental Quality says the poor air quality is due to heat exacerbating ozone pollutants and wildfire smoke in the atmosphere. You can see from this satellite video smoke from fires in the Cascade foothills of Lane County making its way north. A spokesperson says Multnomah County is mainly dealing with smog, while areas in and around Salem are experiencing more wildfire smoke. Dr. Gopal Alada, a pulmonologist at OHSU, says smoke pollution can impact those with pre-existing health conditions.
And I think our sensitivity to what we can tolerate may depend on whether you're in a high-risk group, such as those with pre-existing heart and lung disease, the extremes of age, whether the elderly or children, those who are pregnant should be especially sensitive to the air quality. So in my view, anything but normal should make us think a little bit about what we're going to be doing outside.
He says that if you're in a high-risk group, stay inside with the doors and windows closed. If you do have to go outside, he recommends wearing an N95 mask that can filter out small particles.
You can feel it in your eyes, your nose, your sinuses. People can get headaches. And as soon as we start breathing this bad smoke in, now our lungs can feel it.
Blake says he and his friends will be having their barbecue on Friday when the air will hopefully clear.
Seems like a really good time to go out to the coast or something right now and get out of the smog, Otherwise, fall is just around the corner and maybe we won't have to deal with this as much.
Well, coming up next on First Alert Weather Extra, Wes will tell us more about the dry pattern in place here in central Alabama, and I'll take you beyond the 7-day. We'll be right back.
We heard the first alert. Mom says we have to go. She says I don't have time to grab any more toys.
Need to be in your tornado safe place. Get there right now as you have.
We have to get to our safe place because sometimes when you hear the siren, it's too late. That's why she says knowing first is everything.
We know weather can be grab the umbrella or jogging shoes, but it's so much more. It's a science, an art, led by knowledge and experience.
And no one has more of that than a WBRC First Alert weather team.
Warning you first with more hours committed to you. And the first forecast built to see weeks, days, and even minutes ahead, right down to where you live. From the team you trust on your favorite screen.
Doing the weather better. The WBRC First Alert weather team, always on your side.
The First Alert is more than a warning. It's a promise. A promise to get you out of harm's way with plenty of time to spare. 4 walls and a roof can be replaced. Lives can't. That's why knowing first is everything. First Alert weather.
Welcome back into Weather Extra. Beautiful day out there. Temperatures in the 70s already for a lot of areas. We'll wake up in the morning with those readings close to 64 degrees again to start the day. You can see Tuscaloosa, Oakman, Double Springs, back towards New Bern and Utah in the mid 60s. Blountsville, Asheville, just some pick locations here. Low 60s to the north, and still not out of the question or realm of possibility that we could see maybe a few upper 50s. Places like Rainbow City, perhaps they're north towards Reese City in those locations early in the day tomorrow morning. But more incredible weather to kick things off. That hourly forecast shows the pleasant start, but the heat levels will slowly start to rebound. Tomorrow we'll have highs in the upper 80s, maybe close to 90 around Clanton, places there, but mostly sunny, dry weather tomorrow. You can see the heat index really starts to kick in Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We start to get that very muggy air. Big heat bubble, high pressure across the heart of the country, and that huge, what we call anticyclone, is going to be driving those winds out of the east. That easterly flow is really going to pick up for this weekend, and what will happen, we're going to see a series of what we call short waves and easterly waves that will be moving across the Atlantic basin. One of those could end up in the western Gulf by Monday, and there's a chance. Right now we're seeing a broad area of low pressure. This is from the American model, but just some of the deterministic data which suggests that this may try to organize if it over the western Gulf. If it does become better organized here, it would be far west of Alabama. That said, the water temperatures are plenty warm. The atmosphere is going to become more conducive for development, so it's something that we will need to watch in early next week for the western Gulf, just to see what happens with this. Does it continue moving west? Will it start to turn north? Anytime you have a system that moves west of us, you know, sooner or later, some of that weather a lot of times has to move east again at some point. So we'll see what happens there with that in the next week. But at this point, we're keeping the forecast dry for the most part. Just a small chance for an isolated shower or storm. Hotter conditions, highs in the middle 90s with overnight lows in the mid 70s. But you can tell, really looking at the low temperatures there, 75 into Monday morning, early on Tuesday, we're going from 64 to 75. That's the moisture coming up, and that's why the overnights will start to feel increasingly more humid. But Lauren told us yesterday, we were talking, Lauren, about the, I guess you could call it trick me fall, because the big time heat will soon return.
Yeah, Wes, faux fall is in full force, but it's not going to be lasting long, and we can see that here in the temperature outlook 6 to 10 days from now, looking like some major heat is going to be ramping up next week. So notice, especially here in central South Alabama, we're kind of in that even darker shade of red that highlights the possibility of even well above average temperatures. So what does it look like? Well, remember, these numbers are not the gospel, but give us a general idea that possibly next week we could see highs getting into the mid or upper 90s. I know it's spitting out a 100 degree. Don't necessarily want to believe that yet, but that looks to be the case next week. And then maybe looking a little bit more moderate as we get beyond, even further beyond the 7-day into the following week, possibly the last week of August. So looking very mild, warm, muggy into next week. But then beyond that, maybe we could see a little bit of a cool down in the forecast. The question is, well, how would that cool down come about? Would it be because of a front coming through, or could there be something like a tropical system nearby that could bring some rain? Well, right now it looks like 6 to 10 days from now, at least here in the central Alabama portion of our area, below average precipitation. So it still looks like a drier pattern would be in place. And why are we seeing this potential? Well, we've got a dome of heat that's going to be building in, as Wes was saying. And so here we are next Sunday, or this upcoming Sunday. You can see this dome of heat really begins to build over the southeast. Now, when you have an area of high pressure in the northern hemisphere, air is circulating clockwise around that. So if we look towards the Gulf of Mexico, Wes was mentioning these waves coming in, these disturbances coming in from the east. So air circulating from east to west down here on the southern edge of this heat dome. So that dome almost blocks anything from moving northward, but it does allow these disturbances to come in from places like the Atlantic, or maybe a homegrown storm here in the Gulf that could potentially go somewhere, let's say Texas or Louisiana, be a rainmaker for them next week right along the immediate coast. But it looks like for us, this dome of heat, even though it's going to be bringing us Really gross weather, being hot and muggy, it could protect us from any tropical system that could develop in the Gulf. Now, we also mentioned those two disturbances out farther in the Atlantic. Whatever ends up developing first, the next name on the list is going to be Emily. But you can see that ridge of high pressure, that heat dome reflected here in the mid-level flow of the atmosphere. Here we are next Thursday, August 24th, showing still some disturbed weather down in the Gulf of Mexico, possibly us getting in on that potential for more record heat, or at least above average heat next week, but then showing that weekend that maybe that ridge begins to break down its stronghold over us a little bit. But notice out in the Atlantic, got to be watching for those disturbances as well that could potentially farther develop. So just getting into that latter half of August, we're beginning to see things ramping up with hurricane season. Always want to keep a close eye on the tropics, and you know, here on Weather Extra as well, we always want to make sure we're giving special coverage to climate change, so relevant in this day and age. Well, children as young as 5 years old are the victors in the nation's first constitutional climate trial. That's the ruling out in Montana on Monday. The dozens of plaintiffs argue wildfires, drought, reduced snowpack, and wildlife impacts are hurting them. Their lawsuit against the state of Montana cites a constitutional guarantee of, quote, a clean and healthy environment. A judge is siding with their argument that the state's continued development of coal reserves and other fossil fuels is unconstitutional. And several similar lawsuits are working their way through the U.S. court system. Tania?
Well, Lauren, it's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's ice. A Massachusetts family is trying to figure out why a large chunk of ice came crashing through their roof. They're not sure if it was from an atmospheric phenomenon, an airplane, or something else, as Emily Maha reports.
The likelihood of this happening, we were better off playing the lottery.
Forget a bag of cold hard cash. Jeff Ilg and Amelia Rainville have a bag of?
About 10 pounds of ice.
This was the biggest one that we found. This was on the step, and then all these fragments.
Little pieces everywhere.
The couple's sons had just gone to bed around 10 Sunday night, but when they finally sat down,
We heard the biggest crash that I've ever heard in my life.
It sounded like an explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was you could hear things hitting the roof.
thinking the house was struck by lightning, Amelia raced outside while Jeff ran out back. But what he found didn't make sense.
I ran out the back door and saw ice everywhere.
Giant chunks of ice on the lawn and the roof. Grabbing a flashlight and taking a closer look,
We have a hole in our roof.
Jeff made his way up to the attic, took a look around, saw the giant hole with the ice on the ground.
Oh my God!
This is wild. Where does a giant block of ice come from?
while it's unclear where the ice came from, Jeff and Amelia have an idea.
Our initial thought was it had to have been something falling from an airplane.
The weather was clear, not a cloud in the sky, and the couple's home is right below a flight path. Now, they're left trying to figure out the icy mystery.
It's not from our neighbor playing a prank, that's for sure.
I don't know how I would feel about that. Lauren, do you think it's from a plane? I don't know. That's crazy. Well, the local fire chief says first responders who came to the couple's home also couldn't solve the mystery. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But right now, let's switch gears. The Greater Birmingham Humane Society is taking care of more than 60 animals taken from a former rescue in Anniston. The organization says 39 dogs and 25 cats were taken from the property yesterday, adding some of the animals were living outside with little to no shade. And many of the animals are injured, including broken bones and illnesses. GBHS says they are making sure the animals are getting the care they need. Lauren?
Oh, and I know those babies will get adopted sooner rather than later. Well, most of us know when it comes to animals and our pets, specifically our canine friends, it's good for dogs to socialize with humans and other pets. We know Tania's dog, Mocha, is all too good at that. But according to a new study, it can even help them live longer, healthier lives. Researchers have discovered that the effect of social interaction was 5 times more than anything else they compared it to, such as family family finances, household children, or the dog's parents' age. They also found poor health among dogs who lived in households with financial difficulties and other stressors. The goal of the project was to learn how genes, lifestyle, and social environment influence dogs' aging and disease. It was conducted by the University of Washington and Texas A&M School of Medicine. And I just love stories like this anyway, not just because the research is beneficial, but I just love all the animal video. Gets you in a good mood when you're heading out for the evening. So if you are heading out tonight, dare I say you may need a little cardigan, a light jacket if you're super cold natured. Otherwise, enjoy it. Feels really good outside right now. And tomorrow morning, likely getting down into the 60s for Thursday and Friday. And then we've been mentioning the heat is just going to keep on building. So a first alert for some really hot weather in the days ahead. But you can join us here on Weather Extra every weeknight at 6:30 on your favorite streaming platform. And check back in with Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt tonight on First at 9 for an update on your forecast. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Have a safe and happy Wednesday evening.